Days passed quietly as Luo Feng meditated inside a pavilion atop the city lord's mansion wall. While Marosa monitored the movements of the Heart Shadow sect with his primal chaos realm perception. Once Yuwu informed Luo Feng that the Marquee had approved the attack and everything was prepared. Luo Feng and Marosa followed their original plan, with Marosa maintaining a low profile despite his strength as a primal chaos realm sector beast. The Heart Shadow sect had already withdrawn the Grand Array covering Huyang City after their failed attempt to capture the Array Master, instead strengthening the defenses around their headquarters. Soon, the Marquee of Ju Jang's army fully mobilized. Although many soldiers feared the coming casualties, they had no choice but to fight. At the same moment, Huyang City's true power awakened as 139 interconnected formations activated across the city. These formations instantly destroyed several key nodes of the Heart Shadow sect's 3 great arrays, shattered their control over the city, and captured numerous Heart Shadow disciples by transporting them directly into the city lord's prison. The Heart Shadow sect master, the 18 elders, and Chu Yi were shocked by the overwhelming power of Yuwu's formations and immediately prepared for battle. The Flame-Wind Ancient Country's battleship appeared with the ordinary disciples inside. Protected by the Dark Prison World Array and the Great Destruction Ultimate Formation alongside several massive mechanical treasures. However, the pressure of Huyang City's formations heavily suppressed the Dark Prison World Array, forcing the eternal true gods within it to focus entirely on defense. The Marquee of Ju Jang's legion then launched its attack, transforming into a massive vortex of fire and water empowered by Huyang City. The Heart Shadow sect's battleship charged forward and the two sides collided. During the battle, the Heart Devil Kite and the Divine General of Heart Shadow moved to stop Luo Feng. However, Luo Feng's Blood Shadow Blade easily blocked both enemies, demonstrating a superior mastery of techniques. Chu Yi, despite controlling the Divine General of Heart Shadow and possessing comparable raw power, realized that his understanding of primal chaos techniques was far below Luo Feng's. With Marosa's extraordinary ability to travel through the void even amidst the violent spatial disturbances caused by the battle, he carried Luo Feng directly into the Dark Prison World Array. This shocked both armies, as such movement under the suppression of multiple formations required extremely high mastery of primal chaos realm void techniques. The Heart Shadow sect attempted to stop them, but Marosa's speed made it impossible. As a result, the Great Destruction Ultimate Formation had to abandon its attacks and join the Dark Prison World Array in suppressing Luo Feng, preventing both arrays from assisting the Heart Shadow sect's main forces. Outside Huyang City, Marquee Lu Yin observed the battle and recognized that the Heart Shadow sect was already at a major disadvantage because their two most important arrays were completely restrained by Yuwu and Luo Feng. While Yuwu's legion operated as a perfectly coordinated whole, the Heart Shadow sect's mechanical treasures and powerful weapons lacked coordination and would eventually be defeated one by one. Therefore, Marquee Lu Yin ordered his son, Lu Yinyan, to intervene. A black armored general inside the Flamewind Ancient Country battleship revealed the Marquise's support and summoned a royal guard legion led by Lu Yinyan. The Heart Shadow sect master was delighted because Lu Yinyan was the most outstanding child of Marquee Lu Yin and had been personally trained as a direct disciple of the ancient godly king known as the ancestral god of the Snow Realm. Lu Yinyan immediately took command of the royal guard and controlled the envoy of the Snow Realm, a supreme mechanical treasure created under the ancestral god of the Snow Realm. Unlike the Heart Devil Kite and Divine General of Heart Shadow, which were difficult for the current Heart Shadow sect disciples to fully utilize after their ancestors' death, the envoy of the Snow Realm was operated by a carefully selected force consisting of the commander, 36 eternal true gods, and 49,000 void space true gods, allowing its complete power to be unleashed. The snow-white mechanical treasure displayed terrifying strength, destroying mechanical treasures wherever it passed and killing all cultivators operating them. Realizing the danger, Yuwu urgently called for Luo Feng's assistance. Marosa instantly brought Luo Feng before the envoy of the Snow Realm. Upon seeing it, Marosa noticed that its appearance was somewhat similar to his true sector beast form, though their fundamental paths were completely different, with Marosa embodying the path of destruction while the envoy of the Snow Realm represented the great Tao of life. Luo Feng carefully observed the envoy of the Snow Realm and recognized the profound mysteries of the great Tao of life left by the ancient Snow Realm ancestral god. A terrifying godly king who followed the path of life but was also one of the most infamous slaughterers in the land of origin. As Luo Feng studied the flowing patterns and principles contained within the mechanical treasure, the accumulated insights he had gained over countless years suddenly connected. This small inspiration became the final key that shattered his bottleneck, allowing him to completely comprehend the law of primal chaos. While Luo Feng immersed himself in the joy of understanding the law of primal chaos, the envoy of the Snow Realm remained fully prepared for battle and was confused that the famous Lord Luo he only stood there observing it without making a move. Luo Feng looked at the envoy of the Snow Realm with admiration, recognizing that it truly deserved its reputation as a powerful mechanical treasure of the Snow Realm lineage. Although he disliked the ancestral god of the Snow Realm because of his countless sins and ruthless nature, he acknowledged that the ancient godly king possessed extremely profound achievements in the great Tao of life. According to the records left by his master, Mountain Sitting Guest, the ancestral god's combat strength was roughly equal to his master's, but his mastery of the great Tao of life gave him far superior survival abilities. Throughout endless years, while many ancient godly kings had fallen, the ancestral god of the Snow Realm had continued to survive despite having many enemies, proving the terrifying power of his path. Luo Feng understood that among all primeval Taos, the great Tao of life had the strongest capability for survival. Even mastering only a branch of this Tao was enough to dominate the land of origin. Seeing Luo Feng praising the envoy instead of attacking, Lu Yinyan mocked him and launched the attack. The envoy of the Snow Realm instantly charged forward, releasing a beam of light capable of destroying an eternal true god's body and severing all vitality. However, Luo Feng casually swung his blade, and his flowing blade light blocked the attack perfectly, forcing the envoy backward. The envoy immediately changed direction, greatly increased its speed, and launched countless consecutive attacks while turning into a blur of afterimages. Despite the fierce assault, Luo Feng remained stationary and defended flawlessly. At that moment, Luo Feng received the order to retreat. The army formation transformed into flowing water and quickly withdrew to the city lord's mansion. With the support of more than 100 major formations within Huyang City and Luo Feng holding back the envoy of the Snow Realm, the retreat was completed safely within a short time. Yu Wu informed Luo Feng that the withdrawal was ordered by Marquee Ju Jang. Luo Feng understood the reason. Although he had already comprehended the primal chaos laws and entered the primal chaos realm, he was currently at his weakest stage. His small universe had only just begun expanding. His true god's heart had not transformed, and his divine body and divine power had not completed their evolution. He also had not yet studied the inheritances of the primal chaos realm. Revealing his mastery of the primal chaos laws now would only expose his weakness, and Marquis Lu Yin would not hesitate to kill him. Luo Feng recalled that Shui Yun had once grasped the primal chaos laws at the moment of life and death. But because his other aspects did not improve, he was still easily killed. Luo Feng knew that only after his perfect primal chaos-level divine body reached its limit through long-term cultivation of secret techniques could he truly stand firmly among primal chaos realm experts. At his peak, he expected his strength to be close to Marquee Ju Jang, though still inferior to Marquis Lu Yin. At his current state, confronting Marquis Lu Yin directly would be seeking death. Inside the city lord's mansion, Marquee Ju Yang's divine power incarnation held a banquet for the core members of his army. More than 100 eternal true gods attended, with Luo Feng and Yu Wu seated in the highest positions below the marquee. Marquee Ju Jang praised their efforts but admitted that the appearance of the envoy of the Snow Realm had changed the situation. Even if they had managed to win, only 20 to 30% of the eternal true gods would likely have survived. Everyone understood that with the envoy of the Snow Realm restraining Luo Feng, their army could have been defeated. Even victory would have been a tragic one. Marquee Ju Jang explained that such a costly victory would only invite another attack from Marquis Lu Yin, while his own army was precious to him. Unlike Marquis Lu Yin, who did not care about the deaths of the Heart Shadow sect members, Marquee Ju Jang valued his 3,000 eternal true gods and refused to waste their lives in a war of attrition. He declared that he only desired a decisive victory, not one achieved through endless sacrifices. The eternal true gods were deeply moved by his words because most of them would have died instantly when facing the envoy of the Snow Realm. They believed that Marquee Ju Jang was truly a primal chaos overlord worthy of serving. Marquee Ju Jang predicted that the ceasefire would last for some time and decided to seek additional reinforcements. However, he was troubled because he had already invited powerful eternal true gods such as Luo He, Yu Wu, and Yang Hu, and finding stronger allies would be difficult. He was also worried because the appearance of the envoy of the Snow Realm meant that the ancestral god of the Snow Realm had personally permitted his forces to assist Marquee Lu Yin. Since there were 36 envoys of the Snow Realm under his command, Marquee Lu Yin could potentially pay a price to summon 2, 3, or even more of them. The ancestral god also had more than 10 primal chaos overlords under his command, who followed him because his great Tao of life could greatly increase their ability to survive. Marquee Ju Jang knew that Marquee Lu Yin had a very close relationship with the ancestral god of the Snow Realm, even sending his children to become the ancient godly king's disciples. Although most ancient existences would avoid interfering in the wars of other nations, the violent and reckless ancestral god of the Snow Realm was an exception. Realizing that his army could not defeat multiple envoys of the Snow Realm, Marquee Ju Jang decided that he would have to personally enter the battlefield and also seek assistance from other Primal Chaos Realm experts. Despite the enormous cost, he understood that once a war escalated to the Primal Chaos level, it could easily draw multiple powerful beings into a devastating conflict. Meanwhile, within Luo Feng's small universe in the primordial cosmos region, the space of cosmic origin at its center began collapsing and transforming into a primal chaos primeval space filled with chaotic power and manifested primal chaos laws. Luo Fun observed that his original design based on the concept of the beginning of unity was extremely perfect, allowing his small universe to naturally evolve into this advanced state. The growth of a small universe depended heavily on its original framework. Minor flaws would reduce its final size, while severe flaws could stop its evolution entirely. Those who followed the law lineage rarely encountered such failures, whereas those following the bloodline path had a fixed upper limit determined by their bloodline but avoided fatal defects. The changes within Luo Feng's small universe attracted the attention of countless human experts and beings from the universe ocean. The rampant demon god and many true gods witnessed the appearance of endless primal chaos currents beyond the boundaries of the universe and realized that Luo Feng's small universe was expanding once again. Since Luo Feng had long become an invincible existence within the primordial cosmos region, the various races accepted that his power was growing even further. Luo Feng's family, including Shu Xin, Luo Ping, Luo Hai, Luo Hua, Luo Hongguo, and Gong Xinlan, watched the transformation from their boat outside the universe. Luo Feng estimated that his small universe would expand from 100 billion light-years to approximately 1 trillion light-years in diameter. He explained that this breakthrough was extremely significant because becoming a primal chaos realm being meant entering the upper ranks of the land of origin. Since ancient godly kings were extremely rare and each could establish a nation, most important matters in the land of origin were handled by primal chaos realm experts. Even within the two ancient countries, these beings possessed great status. In imperial lineages such as Emperor Chu's lineage of the Flame-Wind ancient country, a primal chaos realm expert could become a guest elder, showing their immense importance. Luo Feng silently realized that he was no longer merely a disposable pawn like an eternal true god. Under the observation of his family, his teacher Primal Chaos City Lord, Zhenyan, the Thunder Lord, and many other experts of the universe ocean, his small universe continued expanding at an incredible speed. After 5 years, the evolution finally ended, and the universe reached a colossal diameter of 1 trillion light-years, approaching the scale of the entire primordial cosmos itself. In Huyang City, Luo Feng was given a vast residence within the city lord's mansion. Inside the cultivation chamber of the Star Tower, he focused on sensing his true god's heart. As his miniature universe expanded to a diameter of trillions of light-years, his true god's heart became stronger and continuously received primal chaos divine power. Using this power, Luo Feng transformed the true god's heart, creating a stable and vast primal chaotic space. Although this process was simple for primal chaos realm cultivators of the law lineage, Luo Feng's primal chaotic space was much larger and more stable than those of others at the same level. The enormous amount of primal chaos divine power then flowed into his godly body, beginning its transformation. However, his perfect primal chaos realm divine body required an immense amount of divine power to reach its limit, absorbing the energy like a dry desert. Fortunately, his perfect miniature universe possessed extraordinary efficiency in absorbing and converting energy into primal chaos divine power. Combined with the time flow of his homeland being 10.081 times faster than the land of origin, the amount of divine power generated every moment was enormous. While an ordinary primal chaos realm cultivator could reach their body's limit in less than a day with such energy, Luo Feng's body absorbed it without any noticeable change. Nevertheless, his divine power had become 100 times purer, and together with the increase in his physical size and his advancement in realm, his strength had far surpassed his former eternal true God stage. He wondered how great the difference would be between his fully developed perfect divine body and Marquee Ju Jang, especially since no records of such a body existed in the land of origin. Since his godly body would take a long time to fully grow, Luo Fun shifted his focus toward studying primal chaos realm secret techniques. The first type of secret technique commonly learned by primal chaos realm cultivators was a life-preserving technique. As even godly kings could not guarantee the complete destruction of a primal chaos realm expert, Luo Fun studied the reincarnation secret technique, which protected a fragment of the true spirit after death, allowing it to follow the supreme rules into reincarnation while retaining a chance to preserve memories. According to records of past reincarnated experts, the ability to retain memories depended on spiritual will. Godly kings possessed enough willpower to remain fully conscious even in the fetal stage, keeping all their memories and quickly restoring their former strength after birth. Those with primal chaos pinnacle will could usually preserve their memories, but they might only awaken them later in life, possibly after reaching the void space true God or eternal true God stage. Cultivators with weaker wills would likely lose their memories entirely and never awaken their previous identities. Because primal chaos realm experts had many methods of survival and could rely on reincarnation, godly kings generally showed them some respect and rarely pursued them relentlessly. After reincarnation, all previous karmic connections were severed, creating an entirely new identity that outsiders could not trace. Luo Fun realized that many so-called newly risen geniuses in the land of origin might actually be ancient experts who had reincarnated and hidden their past identities. His own master, Mountain Sitting Guest, had undergone reincarnation, and many ancient godly kings or powerful ancestors thought to have fallen might have survived through the same method. Luo Fun understood that most ancient godly kings possessed unlimited godly bodies because they could use reincarnation to correct the flaws of their previous bodies. However, reincarnation carried significant risks, especially during the fetal stage when the soul was extremely weak and vulnerable. Therefore, those who voluntarily reincarnated were usually godly kings who had mastered a branch of the origin Great Tao and possessed overwhelming abilities, allowing them to greatly reduce the risks of rebirth. Luo Fun hoped he would never need to use the reincarnation secret technique because reincarnation would destroy his miniature universe, causing almost all of the countless humans living within it to perish. His divine power incarnations would disappear. He would lose contact with his family. His ability to observe the great Tao of life origin would vanish, and the soul enslavement on Marosa would be broken. Freeing the sector beast, only a hopeless situation would force him to choose such a path. The reincarnation secret technique was surprisingly simple, and Luo Fun mastered it within 3 days, since it was easy to cultivate and widely spread among forces with sufficient heritage. Its creator remained unknown. Afterward, Luo Fun began studying more powerful techniques such as Primal Chaos Great Strength Diagram, World-Breaking 9 Blades, Duan Mie, Donghua, and the Lai Yuan technique. Meanwhile, in the southern region of the Yu Kingdom, there was a massive lake with a giant city built upon its central island. The divine power incarnation of Marquee Ju Jang arrived at the city and visited a secluded cave mansion where a 4-armed expert named Yan Yu lived. Yan Yu was carving a model of the city, and the secret patterns he engraved onto the model simultaneously appeared on the actual city walls, demonstrating his incredible mastery of array formations. Marquee Ju Jang respectfully praised Yan Yu and asked for his assistance against Marquee Ju Jang. who was invading his Ju Jang Primal Chaos Prefecture. He believed that Yan Yu, as a direct disciple of an emperor of the flame-wind ancient country, only needed to speak for Marquee Lu Yin to retreat. However, Yan Yu refused, saying that despite his prestigious background, he was the weakest among the emperor's direct disciples and had only reached the peak of the primal chaos realm. He was not confident he could defeat Marquee Lu Yin in a direct battle. The title of emperor belonged only to the supreme rulers of the flame-wind ancient country, beings whose power had established the nation's unmatched reputation. Aside from the Thunder ancient country, no force dared to challenge an emperor, and even a pinnacle sector beast of the Tianmu kingdom would be destroyed if it provoked one. Although Marquee Ju Jang believed Yan Yu's unmatched array skills could defeat Marquee Lu Yin and criticized him for being too fearful to leave his city, Yan Yu became displeased and expelled him immediately. After Marquee Ju Jang left, Yan Yu continued carving his city model. Deep within his heart, he still carried his old ambition and believed that once he perfected this great city, he would finally break through and become a godly king. Marking the moment of his return, after becoming a primal chaos realm cultivator, Luo Fun left only a divine power incarnation outside while his true body focused on cultivation inside the Star Tower. Upon reaching this realm, Luo Fun realized the limitations of the inheritances he possessed. His mentor, mountain-sitting guest, had never granted him a godly king-level inheritance, indicating that he was not suited to follow the path of artifact refining. Although the Duan-Dong river lineage left behind 3 godly king-level inheritances, Duan Mie, donghua, and Undying River, they were paths created and walked by his ancestor. Whereas Luo Feng needed inheritances related to the law of life and the path of destruction, Luo Feng understood that eternal true gods pursued mastery of the laws of primal chaos, making several inheritances suitable for them. However, primal chaos realm cultivators had already mastered those laws and needed to comprehend the origin great Tao hidden behind chaos. These origin great Taos together formed the supreme rules that controlled the operation of the entire world. Because he lacked any suitable godly king-level inheritance, Luo Feng understood why many top eternal true gods would readily become disciples of the monarch of Yu country, who could provide such inheritances. For now, Luo Feng could only place his hopes on Emperor Chu's lineage of the flame-wind ancient country. He awaited Emperor Chu Yu's breakthrough, as only then could he recruit Luo Feng as a guest elder and grant him access to those inheritances. Setting aside these concerns, Luo Feng decided to temporarily cultivate suitable primal chaos realm techniques. He nearly abandoned the primal chaos great strength diagram because its later stages required extremely high artifact refining skills and enormous resources for the 4th refinement of his perfect divine body. Moreover, its upper limit was only at the primal chaos realm level. Although he had achieved 3 body refinements as an eternal true god with the help of Shang Tianyan, the qualitative leap required in artifact refining at the primal chaos realm was not something he wished to devote excessive effort or resources toward. He believed his hard-earned resources should instead be invested in the superior inheritances of Emperor Chu's lineage. The world-breaking 9 blades was more worthwhile to continue practicing because it aligned with the path of destruction. Although it was also only a primal chaos realm technique. At this stage, it consisted of 3 moves: Primal Chaos Blade, Heaven and Earth Blade, and World Breaking Blade. The final move pursued the goal of shattering every layer of space and breaking the cage of the world itself. But it could only penetrate most spatial layers and could not completely break the cage. The technique represented the creator's pursuit, as even godly kings found breaking such a cage extremely difficult. The inheritance space of the Duan-Dong river lineage also provided little help after Luo Feng reached the primal chaos realm, as its true purpose was to cultivate disciples into eternal true gods. Producing a primal chaos realm cultivator was already a miracle, and beyond that, it could only provide information and guidance. Meanwhile, inside Luo Feng's villa in the city lord's mansion, Marosa was teaching Moyu Qingyan. Marosa harshly criticized him for still failing to fully comprehend the basic laws despite receiving extensive guidance. Moyu Qingyan defended himself by saying that after more than 30 epochs, he was only one step away from comprehending the time law and nearly mastering the 10 fundamental laws. Marosa still called him foolish, reminding him that he had explained the time law more than 10,000 times. Despite Marosa's harsh words, Moyu Qingyan was deeply grateful. Luo Feng had not guided him for more than 30 epochs. But Marosa had patiently taught him all this time. After discovering that Marosa was a powerful eternal true god, even stronger than commanders such as Mo Li Xiao and Shui Yun, Moyu Qingyan became even more thankful and gradually regarded Marosa as his true mentor. Later, Luo Feng summoned Marosa into the Star Tower and wished to measure the difference between himself as a newly advanced primal chaos realm cultivator and Marosa, who had long cultivated in that realm. Marosa suggested that he would not burn divine power or use primal chaos realm techniques and would only rely on his physical body. Using roughly 10% of his strength, Luo Feng unleashed his full power, burning divine power through Duan Mie and using the first move of the world-breaking 9 blades, the Primal Chaos Blade. The attack severed the operation of the primal chaos laws and cut through several layers of space, containing a small portion of the mysteries of the origin of destruction. However, Luo Feng had only mastered this first move, while the second and third moves were still far beyond his current understanding of destruction. Marosa casually blocked the attack with his hand, his skin only slightly dented before completely dispersing the blade's power. He stated that if the attack were twice as strong, it might have injured him. Luo Feng was shocked because that strike represented the strongest attack he could currently perform. Even though his divine body had not reached its limit, his divine power was purer than that of ordinary primal chaos realm cultivators. Yet he could not even break Marosa's skin. Marosa explained that this was because he was a sector beast, whose natural body cultivation was vastly superior to ordinary body refinement methods. Unlike cultivators whose bodies were formed from divine power, sector beasts were composed of the power of sector beasts. The essence of body refinement was not simply consuming resources but arranging the basic energy structure in a more efficient way to increase defense, strength, and speed. Marosa explained that treating the body like a weapon secret treasure was only one path of body refinement. He did not require precious materials because he simply altered the structure of the power of sector beasts according to his understanding of the origin of destruction, naturally strengthening his entire body. However, this method relied on the existence of a realm within a sector beast and was therefore unsuitable for normal cultivators. Luo Feng asked to observe the method. Marosa demonstrated the complex structure formed by the power of sector beasts. The intricate arrangement was extremely profound and beautiful, allowing simple energy units to combine into a body of incredible strength without consuming resources. Luo Feng realized that ancient godly kings with mysterious and powerful bodies likely followed a similar path. Even Mountain Sitting Guest and the Duan Dong River lineage only possessed records of such techniques, considering them precious even among godly king-level inheritances. Although Luo Feng lacked the internal realm of a sector beast and did not possess Marosa's depth in the path of destruction, his perfect divine body had the ability to become formless and intangible and could freely transform even his divine power into the power of sector beasts. Therefore, he believed he could imitate 70 to 80% of Marosa's body structure and use it as a foundation to develop his own path of body refinement. After attempting to replicate Marosa's body refining method, Luo Feng transformed his divine power into a structure similar to sector beast power. Although it appeared identical externally, Marosa noticed internal differences. Luo Feng admitted that his understanding of the origin of destruction was inferior to Marosa's, making a perfect imitation impossible. He realized that true transformation required complete understanding of a substance's essence, not just its outward form. More importantly, Marosa's body contained a special realm, the core of his body refining method and the source of his immense strength, which Luo Feng could not replicate. The structure he created was unstable and could collapse at any moment. After sending Marosa away, Luo Feng continued experimenting alone in the Star Tower. He repeatedly modified, simplified, and attempted to integrate his ideas into a stable divine power structure but failed. He concluded that without sufficient understanding of the necessary realm, trying to create a body refining method through imitation alone was unrealistic. He decided that he needed to accumulate more understanding before continuing his research. Luo Feng then shifted his attention to the primal chaos layer creatures that he had previously studied. Although their value had decreased after his breakthrough into the primal chaos realm, their simple structures made them suitable subjects for his research. Using the perfect life form ability, formless and intangible, He transformed his divine power into silver droplets, the basic units of a silver droplet creature. These transformed droplets were highly stable, and Luo Feng successfully created 120 of them. However, he soon discovered a flaw. Unlike real silver droplets, which naturally fused together and underwent a qualitative increase in power, his transformed silver droplets could not merge. Realizing that he had not completely understood their true nature, Luo Feng captured a silver-like creature made of 1.091 silver droplets, separated it into a single silver droplet, and carefully analyzed its composition. He discovered that beyond the visible primal chaos laws of gold and water, the silver droplet contained a subtle form of life spirituality. This revelation made Luo Feng realize his previous understanding had been fundamentally wrong. He traveled with his divine power incarnation to the source ground of the primordial cosmos and once again observed the great Tao of life origin. With his new primal chaos realm understanding, he perceived the deeper structure of the great Tao, represented by an endless coiling dragon and its dragon bone, which contained information about the birth and awakening of life. Through his observations, Luo Feng understood that life spirituality was the starting point of all life. A small amount of life spirituality could awaken even a stubborn stone into a living creature. Unlike ordinary beings, whose bodies lacked spirituality until a soul merged with them, each individual silver droplet of a silver droplet creature contained its own life spirituality. Although these creatures lacked clear consciousness, the spirituality within every basic component gave them an extremely high level of life. Luo Feng realized that the true foundation of silver droplet creatures was not merely complete primal chaos laws but the fusion of those laws with life spirituality. He further understood the terrifying potential of this path. If every part of divine power possessed strong spirituality, each fragment of divine power could become alive, greatly increasing the strength, speed, and resilience of the godly body. Such divine power could even develop independent consciousness and create new living beings. A godly king following this path could potentially separate flesh and blood to create countless powerful incarnations. Although doing so would weaken their original body, Luo Feng recognized that creating life and producing incarnations were only secondary applications of the path of life spirituality. The true power of godly kings who mastered this path lay in their incomparably powerful bodies, which were like enhanced versions of silver droplet creatures. Their flesh and blood could even be condensed into weapons as durable as emperor-level secret treasure weapons. Although Luo Feng knew his understanding was still limited and he had only glimpsed a small portion of the great Tao of life origin, he understood that the path contained many branches. The ancestral god of the snow realm had mastered one branch related to preserving life, allowing it to survive despite enormous sins. Luo Feng realized that mastering multiple branches and eventually combining them into the complete great Tao of life origin would create a being that embodied the very concept of life itself. He sat before the great Tao of life origin and continuously studied the spiritual information contained within the endless dragon bone. As time passed, his comprehension of the life spirituality within silver droplet creatures deepened. Eventually, after reaching a certain level of understanding, Luo Feng became confident that he could finally perform a perfect transformation of the silver droplet creatures.